Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm great, Roberto. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Jim, let's start with what compelled you to run for mayor?
I've been in the city since 1993. I was a prosecutor for the first 10 years of my career, and I saw a lot of bad things that people did, but I didn't really see bad things that the government was doing. And then when I came into private practice in 2002, I was interested. I was looking around for cases that I could do that were not necessarily like the white shoe cases that big law firms would do. And I took on a bunch of them, and administration after administration, ending with Adams, it was one lawsuit after another. People getting thrown off food stamps, people getting denied Social Security benefits, NYCHA communities in desperate straits with city and state actors not doing anything to help them. I just got sick and tired of it, and I realized that with all the policy areas that I've covered over 23 years serving New Yorkers, that I had a better vision for the government, and that it was time to have a centrist who really was apolitical, who dealt with every single issue and the issues that matter in a logical, straightforward, data-driven way with one goal and one goal only: to solve the problem. Not to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but to solve the problem, and that's what I want to do.
Name your top three priorities, right?
Remember,
wait.
Oh,
Remember.
Yeah.
De Blasio, UPK. Mayor Adams, crime. What are your top three?
Affordability, right? So when I say affordability, I came from desperate straits. I remember what it was like to sleep on a floor. I remember what it was like to go to McDonald's and get the French fries so that I had something to eat. Like, I remember those days. It wasn't fun. People in the city that actually make the city go can't afford it. And it is not a solution to basically say to the business community, the real estate community, screw you guys, we hate you all, you're all villains. What makes sense is to bring everyone to the table, right? To not shut out anyone from the discussion, because everyone can be part of the solution. I'll give you an example. What's part of the affordability crisis? How hard is it to run a small business in this city? It's a terrible, terrible occupation, in part because they're getting dinged by whatever agency is around for whatever stupid violation the inspector can find, when they can walk out the door, turn left or turn right, and there's some street vendor that's doing 50 billion things worse. We have to solve that for small business. I mean, we should not be a city that is over-policing our small businesses and making it impossible for people that run small businesses to earn a living. We help them reduce the costs of doing business. We help in the affordability crisis. Everybody does a little. That's the solutions I want to drive, right? We've got a problem in our pharmacies, right? We go into a drugstore and you're looking and everything's behind glass because there's or plastic, really, very environmentally unfriendly, by the way. But nobody can even get access to shampoo and deodorants and razors without calling and waiting 15, 20 minutes. There are solutions to these problems. But we have a political establishment, really, if you think about it, a political elite, because very few of these people actually came from, the kind of beginnings that are the people that we're meant to serve right now. They're not really focusing on the problem because they're trying to check 50 other boxes of constituents that they're trying to please. And nothing could be worse, by the way, in terms of the housing policy, and we can get to that if you want. But my goal is going to be simple. It is going to be to take issue by issue myself in connection with the good people I appoint, and I'm going to appoint high quality people who are not buddies of mine, and we're going to be policy driven. And the policy is going to be based on making people's lives better.
Jim, the biggest story, and I want to be totally respectful,
please,
recently related to your campaign.
Sure.
Please correct the record. And the reason I always want to afford people the opportunity to give us the facts is because this business is also predicated on gossip and innuendo, and that's part of the business.
You may be telling me something I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a tough business. It's a contact sport.
It's a contact sport.
David Patterson, What
okay.
happened? What is the truth, right? What happened? He came on, he's no longer on, or is he on? What? Again, that received a lot of news. You know that, a lot of press.
Well,
what happened?
Honestly, I think I only saw 2 stories about it, but you can call Governor Patterson. I'm sure he'll tell you the same thing. We had a certain plan, and it just wasn't the right fit. And he was super helpful. I am super grateful to him because honestly, I don't know that there was someone that took more time for a first-time candidate who's a very experienced person, but has never been subjected to the blood sport of politics. I can't imagine someone that was a better advisor to me. But the fit just wasn't there, and we, rather than try to come up with some show, right? If I was an elected official, you wouldn't have even known about it because we would have shrouded it in secrecy, and we were just adults about it, and we went our separate ways. And I'm grateful to him. There's zero bad blood. I haven't scripted any answers with him. Go ask him the same thing, and I guarantee he's going to tell you what I'm telling you, which is the truth, which is that it just wasn't the right fit, and that happens in a campaign. With me, everybody's looking for every small misstep because the establishment really doesn't want me to run. They don't want there to be an independent candidate in this race, and that's dangerous to people. So I'm not surprised that people are interested in that, but that doesn't pay the bills for the man and woman on the street.
Jim, you trash City of Yes, and I disagree with you.
Good.
Why do you think it was such a poor plan?
So,
or is a poor plan?
Yeah, so first of all, I respect your opinion.
Here's why. Again,
please.
I'm not saying I'm enamored with the whole thing.
Yep.
But go ahead. I want to hear your point first.
Yeah. So what is the goal here? If the goal
housing, build housing.
How builds housing? How much? 500,000 units, right? We need 500,000 units of affordable housing in the next 10 years. There's no disagreement about that. City of Yes, despite all the pomp and circumstance and all the elected officials that slapped each other on the backs, how many does it produce? 5,000 if we're lucky. And what does that 5,000 depend on? Nonsense numbers, right? Where's that $5 billion coming from? Have you seen a report that shows how New York City, in a period where the comptroller is projecting multi-billion-dollar deficits for the next 5 years, where New York City is going to get its 80% of the commitment there, and the 20% that's supposed to come from the state? It's conditioned on Albany's budgeting process. You've been around New York politics longer than I
know,
have.
Jim, but here's what I would say from a practical perspective. I agree with everything you're saying, right? That the numbers dictate this, dictate that. But remember, there is ULERPs that are determined by one member. We saw that with Amazon, right? I saw it with Bruckner. I've seen it with land use, right? With this, where a member is like, I want X. Whether it be Western Queens, now upzoning, there are a lot of working class people that say, I moved to North Queens. I moved to Southeast Queens because I wanted to live in New York City and I wanted to be a homeowner in East Elmhurst.
Yep.
I wanted to own a home. If I wanted to live in a congested neighborhood, I would have bought a co-op or a condo. Now what you're telling me is, in order to build more housing, I have to upzone and change the character of my name. In some cases. No, wait, hear me out.
Yeah, I'm about to agree with you.
With that said,
Yep.
You have a co-branch of government, the city council, right? And as you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose, right?
That was awesome.
And my HZQA, I've seen different iterations where you need to walk out with half a loaf.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that is governing.
Yep.
You come in with these great ideas, you start Obamacare, we can go on and on of different major policy changes. But if you don't have a willing body or a co-branch that's not willing to go all the way, and you have to negotiate with votes and get another set of however members in the city council, I should know that, 51, I believe, or close to that number, it's very difficult to say. So it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and say, yeah, we're going to be a trillion housing units, when in reality, it's a very, very, very heavy lift.
Yeah, so first of all, I agree with a lot of what you said, and I'll be specific about it. One of my criticisms of City of Yes is that it places too much burden on the outer boroughs. And by the way, some of the housing that's promoted in the outer boroughs is not the kind of housing that we want or need. But let's put that aside. I totally understand that it's easy to do what, I mean, and I have a lot of respect for Zellner Myrie, but to put a plan together that nobody knows how they're going to fund it, nobody knows what regulations have to change, and you're just going to say, hey, how about a million new units? That's not what my plan's going to be. There are many ways that we can move the needle that this administration decided not to do. There are interim housing solutions for the people that are the most housing insecure or homeless. There are interim housing solutions that this administration looked at and decided not to do. There are other solutions in terms of development of abandoned areas that could be critically important that no one's even thinking about. And then there is the question of reimagining those NYCHA communities that want it, right? Because I don't know what the number is, and we won't know until I'm mayor. But I would bet dollars to donuts that if I put a prototype apartment that was bigger, cleaner, and safer than the current housing stock in NYCHA, and I put it before the NYCHA community and said, I'm not asking you to do anything right now. I'm asking you to walk in this apartment and see what it's going to feel like when you see this apartment. That's step number one. And then step number two is you say to them, let me answer your main concern, which is dislocation. Right? We lived through Prospect houses. We've lived through these developments that aren't like the Chelsea Elliott project going on right now, but these development projects by these eggheads in ivory towers that decided, hey, it's a great idea to put all of these people in temporary housing, completely upend their lives. And then once we've built a new set of buildings, have screening criteria so that they can't qualify to get back in. That's what a lot of people in NYCHA are concerned about. But you can deal with that by a build first program, which is exactly what they're doing with Chelsea Elliott. That was a really good idea. It just wasn't bold enough. So you build a building first, and then you move people from the old building to the new building, and then you demolish. And that way you can be sure that there's no dislocation. You marry these with 10 or 12 other strategies that I have that no one's even thinking about. And now we're not talking about Band-Aids on bullet wounds. We're talking about something that could actually solve the problem. Am I writing on a new script? I'm not. I'm paying attention to what cities like Houston and Cleveland, and there are other cities that are doing things with upzoning that are much bolder to deal with this problem than the half measures that we can get through the city council. And if you want to talk to me about ULURP or the regulatory problems, I'll talk to you about those, but there's a way to get it done.
Jim, fundraising, because it takes money to run races. Where are you in terms of matching funds? Are you
playing
that game?
I'm in the campaign matching system, and I'm only 3 weeks into my fundraising. The first 3 weeks, as I think I established a policy council, 70 people, thought leaders across the city. They're advising me on 49 different issues. We've got great policy going. I'm going to be the one mayor that's going to be ready to lead on day one because I have infrastructure already. So I'm 3 weeks in. I've raised about $200,000. It's okay.
And you took a loan. You
I loaned myself $500,000, but
But January 11th, you'll say you'll get matching. You'll be.
I really don't know where I'm going to be on the matching. Okay. I don't think that I'm going to be very far along in the matching, but I'll certainly show that in a short period of time I'm able to put big numbers on the board. Cool. Are they going to be as big as the numbers of people that have had a 6-month lead on me?
Of course, they have a long runway.
Are they going to be as big as Zoran's? He's got the DSA and all of its populist machine by him. He's got millions of dollars are available to him in small donations. So I'm gonna be aggressive, and I'm gonna play a smart race. As you probably know, I've been very light on hiring campaign staff and relying more on professionals that I know, that I've worked alongside with, that are super smart. We're running a very strategic campaign. We're starting to catch fire from my perspective. Our earned media is as good or better than every other candidate's. So I'm really happy with where we are.
Jim, let's talk about the other folks in the race. I want to hear your thoughts. Brad Lander.
I've known Brad for a long time, and I've got my own views of him, but I'm never going to support a candidate that is a declared member of the Socialist Party. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to support someone who wanted to defund the police. I mean, he can try to paint himself as a centrist as much as he wants to, but everybody knows that he is as left as you can get. And I don't agree with that as a prescription for solving problems for people who are the working people who built the city. It's great to say, like Mamdani did, oh, let's just make buses free for everyone. Oh, really? Where's your plan? I actually agree with that as a goal, don't get me wrong. But to just say that, this is what the people on the left love to do. They love these big ideas that sound really good to people. And then you ask them, oh, well, how are you going to pay for that? And what do they say? More property taxes? Does anybody actually think that we're going to be able to increase property taxes? So there's certainly parts of my housing plan that are going to rely on something that are called temporary micro taxes, right? So if you're smart about taxation, you're not raising property taxes like en masse to try to create disincentives to more building. You use micro taxes, and micro taxes are basically fractional taxes that apply to a whole range of things. So you're raising money at a price point that people don't even really notice, but you're covering a wide range of services, transfers, a stock transfer surcharge, for example, and you do that kind of as a cocktail. And then you can raise an incredible amount of money in a way that is barely noticeable to people. And if you sunset it so that everybody knows that this is basically the, let's call it the affordable micro surcharge program. I'm coming up with the name off the top of my head. But you actually implement that with a 5-year sunset. And so everybody knows it's temporary, and everybody knows, all right, if I provide a luxury service, I'm going to pay, a quarter of a penny more on each transaction, or a quarter percentage. I mean, not a quarter penny, a quarter of a percent, or a 0.5%. That's where you raise a lot of dollars. You do it in a way that does not undermine commerce and does not cause people to want to leave the city. And that's a smarter way to pay for some of these programs.
Your answers have to be a little shorter, Jimmy.
Oh, I apologize.
Got a whole host of other people
apologize.
running.
I apologize.
Scott Stringer.
Oh, listen, when Scott was comptroller, I supported him. I think that he was good in that position for the time. I don't think Scott Stringer is someone that is going to capture the imagination of the city at this point. At the same time, someone like Scott, would I like for him to serve in my administration? Absolutely. The guy's got great ideas. He's got a big brain, and I love his passion.
Zellner Myrie.
Zellner Myrie is an ambitious person. I really did respect the fact that he put himself out there with that housing plan. I disagreed with the housing plan, and I didn't think that there was really any meat behind it on how they were going to finance it. But I think that he's a thoughtful person. I like him as a candidate. I don't think he's ready for a project that is as big as leading the city of New York.
Michael Blake.
I don't know Michael Blake that well, but I will tell you this. I was at the mayoral forum on the Upper West Side with him.
The housing forum.
Honestly, I'm a person that calls it straight, whether I call it straight for myself or call it straight for someone else. I think Michael Blake won that forum by a landslide. I thought that he was polished. I thought his answers were thoughtful. I thought that despite his politics, he sounded more centrist. He was actually one of the few people, being the other person, that was willing to say things that the audience didn't want to hear. And the way that he said it was a way that made sense and that caused people to at least stop and think, maybe he's got a point. So I like Michael Blake.
Senator Jessica Ramos.
I don't know Jessica that well. She seems like a very well-meaning person. I think she's very young. I don't think that she's very experienced. Her experience has mostly been in traditional retail politics, and I don't think that that's what we need right now. I mean, the one thing that I have that none of these people have is I've been adjacent to the political system for 23 years and have decided not to get involved earlier because of how broken it was and how much I could do from the outside. I think that now having someone who's not a career politician, who's willing to not try to fix unfixable systems but replace them with better things is exactly what we need.
Zoran Mamdani.
I love him as a speaker. I think that he is exciting to watch. He obviously cuts a very impressive figure. I never really understand a socialist whose family is as wealthy as his, but let's put that aside. However he got to socialism, I'm not a socialist. I do not believe that it helps. I mean, we can look across the socialist societies of the world and see failed system after failed system after failed system. What we need to do is make capitalism better, and capitalism more equitable, and capitalism safer. And that's why one of the programs that I want to start is an equitable wealth creation program for people at the bottom rung of the ladder, so that there's a city agency that's actually invested in helping them accumulate wealth. That's a better form of capitalism.
Jumaane Williams, if he were hypothetically.
I don't know him. I know a lot of people adjacent to him who have said that he's very smart and his heart's in the right place. I don't think he wants the job. I don't think he's ready for the job.
Former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Again, hypothetically, if he were to throw his hat in the ring.
So I don't think Andrew Cuomo wants the job of mayor, and I don't think that he has the patience to lead people, and I don't think he's ready to lead people at this point. He's got a lot of name recognition, and but he shouldn't be thinking that New Yorkers are so weak that he can ride into the city and suddenly everyone's gonna crown him as the savior. The city of New York doesn't need another career politician with baggage. And I think you probably know this, but the first thing I did when I filed was to make available to anyone who wants it the opportunity to get a background check on me that was done by Senator Schumer's office in 2008. It has every place I've ever lived, every employer I ever had, every place I ever went to school. Lots of other information is in that background check. I'm sure that he still has it. I don't have anything to hide because I've been living my life in public, fighting for people for 23 years. That's why I think people should elect me.
Mayor Eric Adams, thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm not going to pull punches on the fact that we went through this with de Blasio and the investigation into his fundraising. And I was, from where I sat as a private lawyer, I had witnesses who had seats at tables where deals were cut that were at least corrupt adjacent, if not corrupt. We now have the same thing with Eric Adams. We have to stop the clown car syndrome, right? We can't have political leaders that either bring the city hall down with scandal after scandal after scandal because of either their personal conduct or the poor quality of the people that they appoint because they're trying to make friends rather than get smart policy done. And so I don't think Eric Adams was ever a serious candidate. I supported Kathleen Garcia, and it was 7,000. She was 7,000 votes from winning that Democratic primary election, and we would have been better off with her because she's a deeply substantive person who really wanted to do the job and had some great policy ideas and a lot of broad support.
But here's the thing, Jim, as a former prosecutor. Let's face it, the criminal justice system has not been fair historically to people of color. You can indict a ham sandwich, right? Was it Sol Wackler?
Oh, I don't remember where that.
No.
It's a very famous expression.
Right.
Yep.
Due process, right? Understanding the system as a whole.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that? Where people are saying, "Hey, why doesn't he get his day in court like everyone else? Why does he need to be pushed out the door?"
Hey, listen, I was the first candidate to step forward and say, I'm not going to try to jump on this guy's back and tell him that he should step down or that Hochul should remove him. That's what everyone else said. That's what I think, my guess is that's what Andrew Cuomo's been trying to get done. I wasn't that guy.
And now we've seen what President Biden did with his son.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the same party.
But Roberto, I'm a person that's going to call it straight. I do not think he should have been removed. However, I think that he created his own problems. You should know better, whether it's a criminal violation or not, you should know better than to trade favors for campaign contributors. You just don't, maybe people do it all the time. No one's going to have to worry about that with me because I won't do that, right? So what we need is someone who is not corrupt in word, deed, or spirit. And that's just not Eric Adams. I mean, I had a whistleblower that reported stuff that he was doing when he was at Borough Hall. So you can tell by the conduct that he engaged in that whether it violated the law or not is just wrong. You can tell by the appointments that he made of people that clearly...
Jim, so where's the line? I'll give you, here's why. I want to hear more.
Sure.
If you donate X amount of dollars to the Democratic, Obama and Romney raised $1 billion each. Mm-hmm. If you're not Michael Bloomberg, if you're not independently wealthy, right? You mean to tell me, again, I'm not talking about impropriety here. I am talking about where people expect, across the board, that goes from the lady that lives in NYCHA to something, the government, and people are going to try to make government work for them.
Right.
What do you say to that person?
If I understood your question right, what I say is, if you want to run for office, right, like Eric Adams knew that you can't take money from foreign citizens. It's not like complicated. That's number one. Number two, you can't have straw donors. You just can't do it. Whether people do that or not, it's black and white. Number three, I don't care if there's a law against it. It is immoral to trade favors for campaign contributions. It is immoral to say to a campaign contributor who calls you, hey, will you do me this favor and shortcut this, bump me up in this line? That is immoral. Whether it's illegal or not, it's immoral. And what people know about me is I've lived my life in the sunshine. I was a federal prosecutor for almost 10 years. I am the anti-corruption guy. I'm the guy that sued on behalf of almost every community somewhere in the city for some awful thing that was done to them. And I'm the person that entered the arena, sorry to quote the Teddy...
But Jim, you've also worked for people. You talk about former Mayor de Blasio.
True.
And you throw him in the pot, but you worked for him.
I worked for de Blasio when he was public advocate pro bono because he was trying to save health care in Brooklyn that was most important to the NYCHA community in Red Hook. That's why I did it. When de Blasio asked me to join his administration at that point, I told him no way. Because I knew enough about him at that point that I knew that I did not want to work for someone who was morally compromised. Because I got to see stuff that frankly curled my toes. Enough said. But what I can tell you for sure is this. I have seen the corruption. I've seen the broken system. If people vote for me, they can pull that lever knowing that they don't have another scandal that they have to worry about during my 8 years.
Jim, what do you think of this campaign finance stuff? How does that change your thinking? How does it change your strategy, whatever the outcome is? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so as the political outsider, I don't know all of the intricacies of the campaign finance board. I know the guy that runs it, Rick Schaefer. I think that he's a person with deep integrity. I think that he is going to lead the board to make the right decision. And if Eric Adams gets matching funds, he should get matching funds. That's what the CFB is there for. I'm not going to be sitting here second guessing their judgment if they decide to give him matching funds. And if they think he should get matching funds, then he should get matching funds, regardless of the fact that he's been indicted. Those two things are completely unrelated. To your point, the man has a right to defend himself, but that doesn't mean that he's the kind of person or a person just like him that we keep making the same mistake again and again. There's an Einstein saying, it's insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If you don't appoint independent-minded, competent people who want to do the job and will do that job by picking smart, capable people in every single agency, you are going to get another clown car in the next election, I guarantee.
All right, you're running as a moderate.
Yes.
Is that fair? What Mayor Adams politically is considered a moderate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So conceivably, politically, you are aligned. Name 3 things he's done properly. Right. Give him 3 wins. That the current mayor, give him 3 wins.
Okay, I really appreciate the way that he reaches out to every community. I think that is a wonderful thing. I think there's a way to make that better. by, rather than just raising people's flags, having a community council that's made up of community leaders of all those organizations working together. Because the one thing I know, having now gone around the city and talked to a lot of community leaders from a lot of different different populations, is that they all care about the same thing: affordability, housing, and education. Right? Those are the three things that are the most broken. No one in the race is even talking about education and the problems with the DOE. And
right, but you're saying I need three things
from
him.
Three things from him.
The first was the community, the engagement of communities in different communities throughout the city. What are the other two?
What are the other two? Other two things that Mayor Adams has done well. I can't think of that. I can't think of two other things. I can't think about two other things. I mean,
screens for people with dyslexia in public schools. That's one.
Okay, so I wasn't aware of that.
Okay,
all right. So
that's
bad on me if I didn't know. So that sounds like a good program. What's not a good program is having your Department of Education force parents to give up their legal rights in order to get special ed care for your kids. So when I say I can't think of two other things, it's because there's a litany of terrible things that I know about this mayor. That literally happened. Literally, the Department of Education went to the parents of special needs kids and says, we're not going to give you plans for them, IEPs, unless you sign away your legal rights. That is ridiculous. That is like Gestapo stuff. Like you have to basically bow down to the system. You can't go to court, or else we're not going to give your special needs kids services. If that really was happening citywide, and this is not me saying it, this is the New York Post. That's really terrible.
All right, so here's
hold on. I'll get.
Go ahead.
So no, I was going to give you another bad thing that's in my head.
Okay, one. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
So you're running as a moderate, right?
I am. Well, a moderate.
And you're not registered. You're not a registered Democrat. You're an independent.
I'm an unaffiliated voter.
Okay.
Moderate on some things. I'm conservative on some things, and I'm ultra lefty on others.
Here's what I would say. What's your posture on Trump?
Oh.
Considering the numbers, he did well. He did better, way better than he did the last time he ran.
Here's my perspective on President Trump. I'm putting aside everything I've already said about him publicly, because I've been on every network over the course of the last couple of years making my position on him and his ethics clear. It's time to turn the page. We don't need a mayor who uses city hall as a bully pulpit to fight with Washington. We need a mayor who is going to respect that there is a president that we may disagree.
No, I'm talking about what would your relationship with Trump be? Now I'm talking about Mayor Adams. Is that what you're saying?
No.
You're saying city hall as a bully pulpit.
No, a bully pulpit to fight with Washington.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So we can have three kinds of mayors.
What type of relationship will you have?
So we have three types of mayors. A mayor that panders to Donald Trump, a mayor that fights and vilifies Donald Trump, or a mayor that cooperates with Washington to get New Yorkers what they need. I'm going to be the third. I'm going to be the mayor that cooperates with Washington on everything that we can while protecting our citizens. If President Trump sends, jackbooted thugs here to start arresting migrants en masse and ripping families apart, I'm going to go to court. Period. Full stop. That's why you need a litigator. Otherwise, as long as he's not hurting New Yorkers, I'm going to try to collaborate with Washington to get what we need. Billions of dollars in available money for low-income housing, billions of dollars that's available in Washington for resilient, green-friendly infrastructure.
But you're saying you need a relationship with the man for that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's my hope that I'm going to meet with Mike Johnson relatively soon to start talking about ways in which New York City can collaborate.
Last thing, because I want to wrap this up.
Yeah,
policing. Please. What's your posture on policing?
I think we need to support our police better. We can't field a full class of new recruits, and we've got 25% of officers looking to leave the city. Why is that? We have one candidate that came on your show and said, well, I'm going to get rid of police overtime. Oh, really? How are you going to do that, Zoran? How are you going to do that? Right? We don't have enough cops now. So I'm the one candidate in the race who's actually worked with the police for years, both in and out of government, right? So I'm going to have a very high quality police commissioner, and I'm not going to micromanage the person or try to use the police commissioner to accomplish other social issues other than policing. And I'm going to do everything I can to increase the number of police, and they need to be trained better in certain, and especially in de-escalation. And this is not the first time I'm talking about it. I wrote an op-ed that was in USA Today about holstered weapons don't kill people. Police need better training, and they need better escalation for when they take their guns out. Right? If they get more training and they have better options and they've got the support they need because there's enough manpower and woman power, we will have a safer city that is better policed.
Jim, we're running out of time here. Anything you want to add to the conversation? Anything you want to add that I didn't mention or ask you?
I appreciate you. So thank you very much for having me on. I hope that this was a spirited discussion and an interesting one. And I hope it leads to many other opportunities for me to sit with thoughtful people like you.
Hopefully you'll be back, Jim, and best of luck to you in your endeavors, and we'll see what happens with the outcome, right?
Thanks, Roberto.
Ultimately.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.